There's a story you've probably heard. 5 monkeys, a ladder, a bunch of bananas at the top. Every time a monkey climbs toward the bananas, scientists blast the others with cold water. So the group learns. They pull down any monkey that tries to climb. No one gets wet. Then the scientists replace one monkey with a new one who's never been sprayed. The new monkey sees the bananas, starts climbing, gets pulled down immediately, beaten by the others. He never reaches the top. He doesn't even know why. The scientists keep swapping monkeys, one by one, until none of the original 5 remain. None of them were ever sprayed. None of them know about the water. But they still attack any monkey that tries to climb. The rule survived. The reason didn't. You've probably shared this story, or heard someone cite it in a meeting, or read it in a book about leadership or culture or why organizations get stuck. It's a clean story. It explains something real. It feels true. There's just one problem. It never happened. There is no study, no lab, no cold water. Researchers have searched for the original source for decades. The closest anyone found was a 1967 paper by G.R. Stevenson, a real experiment with real monkeys, but the design was completely different. No group punishment, no chain of replacement, no inherited rule. The version everyone knows doesn't exist in any peer-reviewed journal, in any university archive, in any documented experiment, anywhere. It was invented, or distorted beyond recognition, and then repeated. By consultants, by professors, by best-selling authors, by people who heard it from someone who heard it from someone who heard it at a conference in 1995. No one climbed the ladder to check. And here's where it gets strange, because the story about monkeys blindly following a rule no one can explain spread exactly the way it describes. Someone passed it down. The next person repeated it without questioning. The reason got lost. The behavior continued. The myth is a perfect demonstration of itself. You weren't sprayed. You just heard it from someone who wasn't sprayed either. Now, before you feel too comfortable, this isn't actually about the monkeys. The monkeys are fake. The mechanism they describe is not. In 1951, a psychologist named Solomon Asch ran a simple experiment. He showed people a line on a card. Then he showed them 3 other lines and asked which one matched. The answer was obvious, unambiguous. You could see it from across the room. But Asch had filled the room with actors who all gave the wrong answer first. 75% of participants gave the wrong answer at least once. Not because they couldn't see, because everyone else said something different. And being wrong alone felt worse than being right. No cold water, no punishment, just the quiet pressure of a room. Conformity doesn't need a threat. It only needs a group. A decade later, Stanley Milgram took it further. He told participants they were administering electric shocks to another person as part of a memory test. Every wrong answer meant a higher voltage. The shocks went up to 450 volts, labeled on the machine simply X, X, X. The other person wasn't real. The shocks weren't real. But the screams were recorded, and they sounded real. 65% of participants went all the way to 450 volts. Not because they wanted to hurt someone. Because a person in a lab coat said, quietly, "Please continue." That's all it took. They weren't following a rule. They were following a tone of voice. And here's the part that almost no one talks about. In 1936, a psychologist named Muzaffar Sharif put people in a dark room and showed them a single, stationary point of light. In the dark, a still light appears to move. It's an optical illusion. The eye has nothing to anchor to. Sharif asked people to estimate how far it moved. Alone, each person developed their own number: 2 inches, 6 inches, 12. Then he put them in groups. Within a few sessions, the group converged on a single estimate. Individuals abandoned their own judgment and matched the groups. Then Sharif removed the group, tested each person alone again. They kept the group's number. The group was gone. The norm stayed. They were alone in a dark room, estimating the movement of a light, and they were still obeying people who weren't there. This is what the fake experiment was trying to tell you. Not that monkeys are dumb, not that other people are sheep, that you, right now, are carrying rules from rooms you've already left, from a job you quit 3 years ago, from a family dinner when you were 9, from a classroom where someone laughed at the wrong moment. The water stopped. You kept not climbing. And the most uncomfortable part isn't that you follow the rule. It's that you enforce it on yourself, on others. You pull down the monkey that reaches for the ladder, and you call it wisdom. You call it experience. You call it being realistic. Sometimes it is. Experience is real. Some ladders do have cold water at the top. But you can't always tell anymore which rules came from experience and which ones came from a room that no longer exists. Nobody is suggesting you climb every ladder. The point isn't that conformity is always wrong. Ash's participants who resisted, who said the correct answer out loud, alone, against the room, they felt it. The discomfort was physical. Resistance has a cost. The point is simpler than that. At some point, someone told you not to climb, and you listened, and you stopped asking why. That might have been the right call, or the person who told you might have been a monkey who was never sprayed either. The experiment never happened, but you repeated it anyway. Which means the question isn't whether the story is true. The question is, which ladder are you not climbing right now? And do you actually know why?